Welcome back to the GPU Pulse, your weekly deep dive into the graphics processing market, where we track the heartbeat of the hardware that powers AI, gaming, and everything in between. I'm your host, Pete Paisley, and today is March 14th, 2026. If you've been watching the GPU market lately, you know things are interesting. We're seeing a massive migration happening right now. Enterprises retiring Ampere generation hardware, the RTX 3090 becoming the darling of the secondary market, and some legacy GPUs that are basically on life support. Today, we're breaking down the top 10 high-end GPUs approaching retirement age, their current market values, and what this means to you if you're buying and selling or managing GPU assets. Let's dive in. Let's start with the elephant in the room. Or should I say the data center workhorse that's finally getting put out to pasture, the NVIDIA A100 80 gig. Launched in 2020, the A100 is now 5 to 6 years old, which puts it right at typical retirement age for enterprise hardware. And here's what's fascinating. Despite being old by tech standards, these cards are still commanding 12 to 16 or 20 grand even in the secondary market. That's 40 to 50% depreciation from peak pricing, but we're talking about a GPU that originally cost around $10,000 to $15,000. Why is it holding value so well? Three reasons. Memory, and memory. That's 80 gig of memory, and it's still incredibly valuable for mid-sized AI training workloads. Think models up to 70 billion parameters. Plus, there's an HBM shortage right now, which is keeping prices elevated across the board. The demand is high. Research institutions, startups building multi-GPU clusters, and organizations that need serious compute but can't justify H100 pricing, the A100 is a sweet spot for a lot of these use cases. But here's the thing. If you're holding A100 inventory, you're in a good position right now. But watch the Blackwell roll out closely. When B200 volume ramps up, it's going to push Hopper pricing down, which will cascade into these Ampere. My take, hold it for now, but be ready to move at least by Q3 or Q4 this year. All right, now let's talk about the GPU that's becoming the people's champion of the secondary market, the RTX 3090. This card launched in September 2020 at $1,499. And today, 5.5 years later, it's selling for $800 to $1,000. That's about 47 to 53% depreciation for you math nerds, which honestly isn't bad for a consumer GPU that's been through a crypto boom, a pandemic, and multiple generational cycles. But here's why the 3090 is the card to watch. 24 gig of VRAM at a consumer price point. You can't get that anywhere else in the market today without spending significantly more. The RTX 4070 and 5070, 12 gig. The RTX 4080, 16 gig. If you're running local AI models, AMA 270B, Stace Diffusion XL, anything that needs serious memory, the 3090 is your best bang for the buck. And demand is very high right now. We're seeing AI hobbyists and content creators, small businesses, and even some professionals who need the VRAM but don't want to drop $3,000 on an RTX A6000. The market is calling this the sweet spot GPU, and we agree. If you're selling 3090s, you're in a good position. If you're buying, expect to pay close to $1,000 for a clean unit with good thermals. And if you're thinking about upgrading from a 3090, honestly, unless you're going to a 4090 or higher, you might want to hold on to it. All right, let's shift gears and talk about the professional workstation market, specifically the RTX A6000 and A40. The A6000 launched in 2020. It's now 5 to 6 years old and selling for $3,500 to $5,000 in the aftermarket. That's a 25 to 35% depreciation from its original MSRP of about $4,650. Compare that to consumer cards, and you can see why the professional GPUs hold better value. They're built for longer life cycles, they're certified for professional applications, and they've got that enterprise support backing. The A6000 The A6000 is still in demand for CAD CAM workstations, medical imaging, scientific visualization, professional 3D rendering. But here's the retirement driver. The RTX 6000 ADA is out now with better performance at the same 48 gig memory capacity. So we're seeing workstation refresh cycles kicking in. Organizations that bought A6000s in 2020 or 2021 are now at that 4 to 5 year replacement window. So the A40 is in a similar boat. 3 to 4,000 in the secondary market, down from about 5,000 at launch. The A40 was always more of a data center virtualization play, VDI deployments, multiple tenant GPU sharing, rendering farms. Its successor, the L40S, is now available, which is pushing A40s into retirement. If you're a small architecture firm, an engineering consultancy, or running a rendering service, these cards represent serious value right now. You're getting enterprise-grade hardware at a significant discount. All right, let's talk about the cards that are basically on hospice care, the V100 and P100. The V100 launched back in 2017 is now 8 to 9 years old. It's selling for $1,500 to $2,500. That was a 70 to 80% depreciation from its original $8,000 to $10,000 price tag. Demand is low to moderate, and honestly, it's mostly organizations with V100 optimized code or extreme budget constraints. Here's the problem with the V100. It's not power efficient compared to modern GPUs. It lacks modern AI features like FP8 and Transformer Engine, and it's just old. If you're running a data center, you're not buying V100s in 2026 unless you have a very specific legacy use case. Those P100s are even worse. Launched in 2016, now 8 to 10 years old, selling for $400 to $800. That's a 85 to 90% depreciation. Demand is low as well. We're talking educational projects, extreme budget AI experimentation, hobbyist clusters. That's it. If you're holding these, my recommendation is to liquidate now. These cards are approaching end of life, and whatever value they have left, it's evaporating quickly. Don't wait for Q3 or Q4. Move on them now. Cash it into something with better future value while there's still some demand. All right, let's wrap up with some market insights and recommendations for asset managers and anyone thinking about buying or selling GPUs right now. First, depreciation patterns. Consumer GPUs like the RTX 30 and 40 series expect 40 to 50% depreciation within 12 months of the next gen launch. Professional GPUs like the RTX A series, 25 to 35% over 4 to 5 years, much more stable. Data center GPUs like the A100 or H100, 40 to 55% as the next architecture launches. And legacy GPUs, 70 to 90% after 7+ years. Second, the memory premium effect is very real and current. GPUs with high VRAM are commanding premium pricing on the secondary market. The RTX 3090 and 3090 Ti with 24 gig, holding value. The A6000 and A40 with 48 gig, strong demand. The A100 and H100 with 80 gig, enterprise grade pricing. Third, optimal selling windows. If you're holding those consumer GPUs, sell 3 to 6 months before the next gen launch. Professional GPUs, sell at the 3 to 4 year mark before major market refreshes. Data center GPUs, sell when the next architecture enters volume production. So here's some immediate action items for Q2 2026. Liquidate your V100 and P100 inventory. Values declining rapidly. Hold A180 gig, still strong demand, prices stabilizing. Sell RTX 3090 and 3090 Ti. You're at peak secondary market demand before the RTX 50 series saturation. Evaluate H100 retention. Consider renting versus selling. You could see 2 to 4x revenue potential with rental models. All right, that's another GPU Pulse for this month. We've covered the top 10 high-end GPUs approaching retirement, their current market values, and what it means for you buyers, sellers, and asset managers in March 2026. If you found this episode helpful, subscribe to the GPU Pulse wherever you get your podcasts. We drop new episodes every month with the latest market data, pricing trends, and insights. And I'm your host, Pete Paisley. And remember, know your GPU and know its worth. And follow the GPU resource for intelligence for the GPU lifecycle. We'll close with an updated summary of this month's market.